Welcome back to History's Hidden Weird, the podcast where we rummage through history's junk drawer to find the forgotten, the freakish, and the flat-out funny stories you've never heard. I'm your host, Quinn Strange. Today's episode? It's war, but not as you know it. It's World War II, with exploding animals, flaming bats, and ideas so wild they make Wile E. Coyote look like a Nobel laureate. Yep. We're talking about bat bombs and exploding rats, two actual, military-funded weapon programs that somehow made it past the "Are we serious?" stage. So buckle up. We're about to dive into the absurd, occasionally terrifying, and 100% true world of cartoonishly weird wartime weapons. World War II was, in many ways, a testing ground for innovation. Some of those innovations? Life-saving. Think radar, penicillin, jet engines. Others? Well, let's just say they didn't make the history books in the same way. By the early 1940s, the world superpowers were throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. Spy pigeons, inflatable tanks, phantom armies. But even by those standards, today's stories are uniquely absurd. First up, the bat bomb, possibly the most nightmarishly creative thing to ever come out of a dentist's office. It all started in 1942 with an American dentist named Lytle S. Adams. He'd just visited the Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, home to thousands of bats, and then, shortly after, witnessed the devastation of Pearl Harbor. On the flight home, he had a thought that only a dentist might have. What if we used bats to burn down Japan? No, really. That was the plan. Adams wrote directly to the White House and proposed this. Strap tiny incendiary bombs to thousands of bats. Load them into a special bomb casing. Drop that casing over Japanese cities. As the bomb fell, it would release the bats, which would then fly into buildings to roost. The bats, many of which would hide in the eaves and attics of flammable wooden Japanese homes, would then detonate, setting the cities ablaze from within. Shockingly, President Roosevelt approved it. Project X-Ray, as it was codenamed, received funding. And the U.S. military began developing special timed incendiary devices small enough for a bat to carry. Thousands of Mexican free-tailed bats were captured. Scientists tested everything from altitude drops to mini napalm payloads. And it sort of worked. During one test in Carlsbad, the bats accidentally escaped with live charges and burned down a U.S. Army airfield hangar. So yes, the bat bomb was technically successful. Just on the wrong side. Ultimately, Project X-Ray was canceled in 1944, not because it was too wild, but because the atomic bomb was faster. As in, literally. The Manhattan Project had a tighter schedule. But for a brief window in history, the U.S. was genuinely planning to win the war, with flying, flaming bats. Not to be outdone in wartime weirdness, the British had their own animal-based weapon idea. Exploding rats. And no, that's not a punk band name, although it should be. In 1941, the British Special Operations Executive, or SOE, the Wartime Sabotage Agency, cooked up a plan to mess with German infrastructure using rodents. The concept was this. Take a dead rat. Stuff it with a small stick of plastic explosives. Scatter it near a boiler or factory furnace. Wait for a German maintenance worker to pick it up and casually toss it into the fire, as you might with, well, a dead rat. The fire ignites the charge. Boom. Sabotage complete. Simple. Sneaky. Terrifying. The SOE actually produced over 100 of these rat bombs and shipped them toward occupied Europe. But here's the twist. None of them were used. The first shipment was intercepted by the Germans. Once they figured out what was inside, they were horrified. But, ironically, they also overreacted. The Germans launched a massive internal investigation, spending precious resources checking boilers, furnaces, and sewers for more exploding rodents. So, even though the rats never exploded, the psychological warfare was a huge success. A literal case of, the rats that never went off still blew up in the enemy's face. Now, it's easy to laugh at this stuff. Flaming bats. Bomb-filled rats. It sounds like rejected episodes of Tom and Jerry. But these were real programs, funded with real money, developed by real scientists, all during one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. And they weren't alone. The Allies and Axis powers explored every bizarre option you can think of. Poisoned flour. Exploding chocolate bars. Anti-tank dogs. Even painted camels to mess with enemy aircraft spotters in the desert. Desperation breeds creativity. And in World War II, the line between genius and lunacy got blurrier by the day. What's remarkable is not just how absurd these ideas were, but how close they came to being used. Weapons that today sound like cartoons, at the time, were discussed in war rooms by men in uniform, with straight faces. So what can we take away from all this? Well, for one, never underestimate what a dentist with a clipboard and too much free time can come up with. And two, history isn't always noble or rational. Sometimes, it's desperate, inventive, and deeply weird. Bad bombs and exploding rats may not have won the war. But they did remind us that when the stakes are high and the rules are off the table, the human imagination gets very creative. That's all for today's episode of History's Hidden Weird. I'm your host, Quinn Strange. If you liked this strange little dive into wartime absurdity, make sure to subscribe, share it with your most conspiratorial friend, and leave a review, preferably one that doesn't self-destruct. We'll be back next time with another tale that history tried to bury, but we dug it up anyway. If you liked today's episode, leave a review, share with your weird history-loving friends, and hit follow. Have a strange story you want us to cover? Comment below and we will see what we can do. Until then, stay curious, stay weird, and for the love of all that's flammable, don't weaponize bats.